Hi and welcome to episode 12 of the Super Game Bros podcast. This is Virtually Paris. I'm your host, Ricky McMillan, and tonight I'm joined as usual by David Morris, Will Hamilton, and Danny Black. How are you doing, guys?
Well,
All good.
Excellent, excellent. Now, David is bored in Bristol this evening, folks, so send your questions in for David using the hashtag RambleQ. However, Super Game Bros this week is sponsored, of course, as always, by G2A.com and NoScopeGamingGlasses.com. As we said, this is episode 12, Virtually Paris, and we're going to be covering Paris Games Week and the Sony conference and keynote address, as well as virtual reality and the pros and cons of it for the future. Join us back in part 1 where we're going to be discussing Paris Games Week. And welcome back to part 1 of the Super Game Bros podcast. I'm your host, Ricky McMillan. You can contact us on the Super Game Bros podcast using sgb@ramblemedia.com, .co, or contact us on Twitter at RambleMedia with the hashtag RambleQ. Now, on with the show. Paris Games Week. Last Tuesday, Paris Games Week was kicked off by Sony giving a keynote address, on a conference, and Sony were the company that missed Gamescom. And there was a big furore about that, and I believe we spoke about it way back in episode 6. So there's that. Now, personally, I think it was very underwhelming, the Sony conference. I don't think there was anything that we saw that we weren't expecting to see. The big surprise obviously being, of course, the news that No Man's Sky is getting released in June of 2016. So for those that are looking forward to No Man's Sky, again, more disappointment as we are obviously still going to be waiting.
Ricky,
David, I was about to ask you, did you see the keynote address?
So I've taken the time to watch the address, and I think I've caught about 2/3 of it, or just a little bit over that. I'm not a PlayStation owner, so I've got limited interest in kind of Sony, but obviously for the purposes of this discussion, I've tried to kind of catch up with it. There were some things in it that I thought were kind of interesting looking, and there were some things in it that I thought were frankly a bit bizarre looking. The presentation of Wild, I think, lost me about 30 seconds in. Become a shaman who will transform into an eagle, who then kidnaps a bear, who sends a rabbit to find a snake goddess.
Yeah,
Essentially, that's how it works.
yeah, and it's like, this is just one of many quests you can do as the shaman for your tribe. I'm like, what? So, listen, I may be doing the game a great disservice. It might be a pile of fun, but it just looks a bit, frankly, bizarre. The one game that probably really caught my eye was Detroit, I think. And what I was left sitting there going, wow, that looks completely amazing. And then I remembered the Watch Dogs unveil. I remembered how amazing that looked, and I think to myself, okay, that's what a CGI trailer looks like. What do we get when it's actual gameplay? So I don't know. I honestly don't know. The story and the concept I thought looked really interesting. When we get to see more about the game, I don't know. But I mean, other than that, it was, hey, we're getting new characters back for Street Fighter, and we're having Tekken, so we've got 2 beat-em-up titles, and I don't know.
Yeah, and one of the guys who's in charge of one of their titles is going to be a playable character in Street Fighter.
Yeah, and I mean, that one...
I'm not sure if that's what they were at when they said that. I think that was just a way of trying to introduce the next guy on the stage. I don't think they're actually going to put Harada in it.
Well, if that was just a way of introducing the next game or the next guy on the stage, it was absolutely terrible. As a segue,
let's be fair. I mean, look at the way Nintendo do other stuff at E3 as well. Everybody was puppets this year.
But that's Nintendo.
They're trying to be fun with it. I think that was more trying to be fun, but the fact that it was 2 Japanese people who were doing it back and forward, I think it was lost on us. Yep. It would have probably been much better at Tokyo Game Show when everybody actually understood what was going on.
Probably. Now, going to what you mentioned there, Will, about the audience and people not being able to understand what the hell was happening. Danny, I know that you're a big PlayStation fan. Do you think that the crowd had a lot to do with how underwhelming the whole presentation was?
Not necessarily. I think just really their lineup. There wasn't really big shocks. Gran Turismo and Tekken were maybe the only two that really surprised me that I was not expecting. Um, yeah, maybe crowd did have a part to play in it, but I don't know. I was pretty underwhelmed.
Uh,
I didn't see any big shocks.
Neither did I. The only thing that I knew was going to be a big shock, what I'd been told was that Uncharted 4 wasn't going to be at Paris Games Week. And then I seen the Uncharted 4 booth, and I went, that's strange. And it turns out that it was Nier that wasn't there. And Nier is a game that I would assume would be there.
Mm.
You know, I don't know. What about yourself, David? Do you think that the crowd may have had a hell of a lot to do with it?
I don't know if they had a lot to do with it, but my sense was the crowd were like being polite. There was a few fanboy whoops and what have you, but there was no sense of any real excitement being generated in the place. Now, the guy who was running the presentation, Jim, I can't quite recall the guy's name, so he's the European president. I wouldn't have, he's probably got a bit to do in terms of working on his presentation style, because I don't think he was hitting the mark in terms of what he was unveiling. I mean, for example, he said at one point that the next 3 games are all PlayStation 4 exclusives, and then the first one was exclusive, the second one was on PlayStation first, which presumably means that it's going to other platforms as well.
I think he mentioned in that one that it was going to have exclusive content rather than a complete exclusive.
And do you know the thing is, well, I think it's all very nuanced. It's all very, we'll have bits of this and some of that, and we're going to have a little bit here, and things you'll get here early, and there's no kind of sense of, there was no drop the mic moment. And if you were looking for what I would have maybe regarded as a drop the mic moment, and to compare it against, if you go back to E3, and Phil Spencer says, by the way, we're doing backwards compatibility, and the place just erupted. There was nothing like that. And now whether that's because there was nothing like that to announce, or whether the presentation just really needs a lot of work in terms of how it's done, my sense is Sony really needs to start looking at its PR and try and figure out how it's going to drive more excitement into its lineup, because right now it feels a bit tepid.
Yeah, I've got to completely agree there, David. It's like they had a great run, and now that we're 2 years into this gen, it's like they've kind of run out of ideas. It's a bit like the WWE creative department.
I totally agree there.
So do you know what to expect? The Undertaker will get brought back out soon then, won't he?
Oh, yep. Survivor later on this
SummerSlam.
I think some of the issues with Paris Games Week as well is that I think a lot of the people sitting in that crowd were French,
and not necessarily.
Well, I don't. Not all of them. I mean, I understand that not all of them would have been French, but I mean.
But it was an English language presentation.
Those kind of events, but at the same time, you had people coming on the stage and speaking in French first, and people replying and answering and stuff. So there were people who were French.
It's not even that. Well, you had people in Japanese making announcements, which were then translated into English in front of a French audience.
Mm-hmm.
So people are listening to it.
So, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that there's got to be some kind of translation issues, and that's why people weren't picking up as much as they should do. They weren't reacting the way that they were hoping they would probably would.
Yeah, so I think they have to really be clear on what they were going to be doing. Now, is Paris Games Week the right time, or was it that they felt they wouldn't necessarily have their shit together until October time, and therefore Paris Games Week was the right event to do a presentation?
Well, it's possible. I mean, to be fair, they did have a fair lineup at E3, and maybe Gamescom was just too much of a competition with Microsoft, and that's why.
And I think what you're seeing is a clear divergence in terms of the strategies of how the big companies are using the different events. So Microsoft seems to have settled on E3 for this year, Gamescom for next year, as the kind of beats in terms of the games and the presentations that they do. And the Gamescom stuff I thought was pretty hot. You know, you were seeing things like Crackdown, Scalebound, Quantum Break. You know, a pile of really interesting, very good looking titles, all promised for 2016, and that's without even talking about titles like Recore or Sea of Thieves and what have you. So, you know, Microsoft has done its work in terms of developing its lineup for next year, and it's going to be title after title after title.
Sorry to interrupt, David. Looking forward, do you think that, you know, yourself or Danny, do you think that Destination PlayStation, or PlayStation Experience as it's being called now, do you think that that's where Sony are going to wow us? Because E3 wasn't, you know, there was nothing new. Bethesda stole E3 with Fallout 4.
Yeah,
agreed.
A new version of Doom. Gamescom, Sony weren't there. They were posted missing. And Paris Games Week, as I've already said, I found it extremely underwhelming. There was nothing there, you know, new. We were expecting Gran Turismo. Don't get me wrong, I never considered Tekken. But at the end of the day, we knew that at some point it was going to be announced. So, you know, there was nothing there there was no wow factor.
We had an hour and 3/4 of a presentation.
Yes.
yeah.
For what?
The biggest part of that as well was Gran Turismo, and a lot of, like I was mentioning earlier, fluffing and stats on stuff that didn't really make much difference to the game. Speaking a lot about the actual motorsport, I get it, motorsport is why Gran Turismo exists, but at the same time, talking about Real's motorsport when it's got literally no bearing on the game that's coming out is...
Aye. And
it was a good, maybe, 15 to 20 minutes worth of crap. They could put up with a lot more of something else that people actually wanted to see.
Yeah.
Like an extended trailer for the Ratchet and Clank movie. They'd been better after showing that.
Yeah, they could have shot the whole movie in that space, to be fair.
Aye.
I'm going to make a prediction for PlayStation Experience. I think they'll be possibly starting like showing new God of War, because they accidentally announced that at the last PlayStation Experience.
Well, they
Accidentally. They don't do anything by accident.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
there was that thing that I posted not too long, like just earlier on in the chat as well, about the event in Korea that PlayStation's attending. So there is every good possibility that they'll announce it there, and they're spreading themselves out on this rather than just doing what Microsoft have done and just go a couple of events. That's us done. They are spreading it.
No, I think they'll save God of War.
Announcements there. I mean, obviously they gave us the release date for No Man's Sky, but they could easily bring that forward at PlayStation or PSX.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they didn't actually give us a date. They just said June.
Yeah, they just gave us a month, but at the same time, I may have already missed this, but is there a firm date for VR to be released yet?
No.
So
I think
good possibility that No Man's Sky. I mean, me and you have been arguing about this for weeks now, Ricky, but I still think that No Man's Sky would be a fantastic launch title for VR.
I agree.
I'm not disputing that it wouldn't be a fantastic launch title. What I am saying is that it would be a complete and utter, in my opinion anyway, a complete and utter waste of time as a VR title. Simply because, you know, the whole game is first person. And while it would be cool, you know, with VR and all that, you know, flying about the universe, flying on planets, shooting things and all that, while that would be great in VR, I think the motion sickness thing would put a lot of people off. Now, we're going to be talking about VR in part 2, so I don't want to go straight into the VR just now.
Come on, Ricky, don't steal my thunder now.
I've got a lot to say about VR as well.
Right, well, there was a couple of things. I mean, obviously, I'm slightly agreeing with you about the disappointment part, but I mean, we've had this conversation in our private chat quite a few times regarding PlayStation and where they're going, and I've always stuck to the belief that PlayStation of this year or this generation, they're kicking the crap out of Microsoft because they are just focusing on games. as opposed to Microsoft that they're trying to be the TV, they're the box under the TV. They're trying to do, and they've lost a lot of the people a lot of the core gamers because they're doing too much and they're spreading themselves too thin when it comes to the gaming department.
I might have agreed with you up to about 18 months ago, Will, but there's been a definite change.
Well, there has been a giant change in strategy recently, but I think it may have came just too late for them now.
Yeah.
There is the next year or so to. Everything's still to play for because obviously PlayStation have got a lot of their stuff coming out middle of next year, end of next year, whereas Microsoft have got a lot of stuff coming out a lot closer to today. So I mean, it is all still to play for. It just depends on when games are actually going to be released and whether or not there's a lot of first party titles on each one of the consoles.
Yeah. Can I just say
you go, Danny.
The Xbox, their publicity whenever they were launching was very bad. Like the whole, if you have got crap internet, stick with Xbox 360 kind of.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no question. But I mean,
they have had issues.
That's 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that it's relevant to talk
about.
I mean, how badly
they have been able to pull themselves out of that fire somewhat. I mean, there are still people. I mean, I did mention recently, obviously, about the Kinect issue as well, telling everybody who bought an Xbox One that they had to have Kinect, and then doing a giant U-turn on that. But I mean, they've managed to pull themselves out of that fire, and hopefully they've now got themselves on track to get back to the people who matter when it comes to the gaming industry, who is the gamers. I mean, let's be honest, gaming should be singularly most important to both companies, and then the apps and the rest of the stuff that's going to be happening in the background.
Yeah, I've got to agree there, Will. Now, coincidentally, I sent a poll out using the RambleMedia.tv official Twitter, which is at RambleMedia, and the poll was asking, was Paris Games Week underwhelming? And I checked the results just before we went on the air there, and the weirdest thing is people are saying, and it's 100% of the people are saying that Paris Games Week wasn't underwhelming for the PlayStation presentation. Personally, yeah, it was. It just was. There was nothing new, except for Detroit, and I believe, David, that at the end of of this, when they were showing Detroit, it actually says at the bottom, this is in-game footage.
Right.
So go back and see that. But if that's in-game footage, then we're talking about a game that's probably running at the very limits of the console, and to get that close to the end of the console, the power of the console, to get that close to the power of the console this early in the generation it's a very strange thing for me.
I wouldn't say it's the very limits of the console. It's probably more the very limits of what the developers are capable of doing on the console at this point. I mean, obviously,
but the developers are using the developer kit, which is basically the console.
Well, we've had this discussion before. Look at Halo 3 and Halo 4. On the Xbox 360, there was a massive jump in graphics between those, and they were using the same developer kit and the same technology. So it's what the developers can squeeze out of a machine.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
In the last 2 years, they've only just started messing about with these machines. So I mean, they've got like another 10, in my opinion, at least 10 years worth of playing about to do. They'll figure out how to make it better. They'll be in 4K within the next 5 years.
Well, the thing about Detroit anyway that I noticed was that, see the very last shot where it's raining and she turns her back on you. In that very last shot, I was looking at it and I was going, "That's almost CGI movie quality." That's
what it is. I mean,
when you're watching the Hulk bash Loki about, uni god. It was I was staggered by how much that looked so real. And that's what I'm saying. I genuinely think that they're pushing the envelope of the machine. They're pushing it to the point. I mean, there was Rocket League. It's not any great shakes graphically, but see when you play that game online, your machine suddenly, it's like a helicopter taking off. It's like an episode of A-Team and they're trapped in a shed. I think to myself,
that's the thing about Quantic Dream, though. They are specialists in getting as much as they can out of a game. I mean, they are the fact that, I mean, me and David spoke about this earlier before the podcast started as well. The actress that they've got playing Kiara in the game, her name's Valerie Curry, and they've got her face spot on. I mean, I've seen Valerie Curry in stuff in the past. She was in a TV program called The Following, and they've pretty much got her spot on.
Yes, they have.
Yeah,
I know who she is. I know exactly who you're talking about.
A picture of her, and then a picture of her in the game, and just.
So I mean,
I think the way that they've done.
I think if it is in game, then it's very impressive, very impressive, no question. For me, I think that it's not the pixel count that's going to differentiate how realistic something looks. It's the lighting. It's the various kind of lighting features that they're able to kind of turn on or do, because they tend to be the things that the way that the scene's lit is going to determine how realistic it looks to the eye. And I think David, it might well be that they've been able to get some more lighting features into the game engine that allows them to do that. I don't know. I was kind of expecting to see a real uptick in sort of graphical fidelity and things like how certain games are lit with DirectX 12, and it's possible that really kind of what you've got here is if it's in game, then they've figured out ways to get an awful lot more out of the hardware than other people have.
Can I just say as well, technology is changing that fast that I think this is going to be the shortest gen in terms of like gaming.
I'm not sure, Dan, because I'm not sure what the numbers are for PlayStation off the top of my head, but I've seen some stuff written that suggests that Microsoft has shipped 20 million Xbox One consoles worldwide.
Which ships and
I
sells
think
two
it's
different things.
25 million PlayStation 4s.
The figures yesterday, and up to yesterday, they had shipped 29 million PlayStation 4s and had sold 26 million, and that number's up by 1.5 million since E3 thereabouts.
So I mean, this was a kind of speculative article that said that they thought Microsoft was shipping something like 22 million consoles. So it's not, it's a big gap, but it's still an awful lot of hardware out there. Neither company is going to junk that in a 3 or 4 year cycle. I think this is a 6, 7, 8 year cycle.
At least. I would agree with that, at least. I mean, the amount of money that Microsoft and PlayStation have put into these machines, they are not going to want to just jump to the next generation. The consumers won't be happy about it, and the consumers won't spend that money again anytime soon.
No. So I mean, I don't think you can ask someone to spend, 400 quid on a new generation console, and then 2 years later say, by the way, you've only got 2 years left. It just doesn't feel authentic at all.
Unless they're bringing out a PlayStation or an Xbox 2, and they're just going to do backwards compatibility for 360 and Xbox One games.
See, I think I would have more sympathy with some idea of a plug-in graphics enhancer or something of that ilk that would uprate the capability of the box to do something, and then effectively what you've got is 2 generations of the same games running on a platform. One's capable of kind of turning on all the bells and whistles in terms of the graphics. I think that's potentially more likely than a new console, but even then I don't think
it's possible, but it would need another leap in technology for it to work. I mean, the connectors would be the HDMI, the USB, or the optical. I think there's an optical in this.
Yeah, so optical gives them audio output. USB 3 has got tremendous bandwidth. In fact, you can.
It's quick enough to run graphics through.
Well, USB 3 is faster than the internal hard drive. Well,
yeah, but the hard drive isn't the processor, though.
No, it's not, and I suppose that it's the game engine that will determine it. I think we're some way away from anything like a new generation of consoles. I think when you get things like DirectX 12 and other graphical features that will come on stream, as generally speaking, developers get better and better at it. I mean, we're talking about Detroit and how impressed we were with Detroit. And then we find out, for example, that the Uncharted stuff, the collection is going to be running at 900p.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot
do
of
you know,
that
and it's like, you know,
is capable.
how do you reconcile the two things there?
Obviously, some of the what do you call it, the Nathan Drake collection and stuff, it's upscaled from lower resolutions to begin with. So I mean, the higher they make that, the worse it's going to look for them. So I mean, there is obviously cut-offs that they decide beforehand.
had-
Like, let's not go to 1080 because it will look crap and people will complain about it.
I'd heard it was more to do with frame rate for multiplayer.
Well, there's
then,
that as well. I mean,
but
some of
then what they
games
do
as well
in the same breath,
the speed that they're supposed to run at now.
in the same breath as doing that, they then turn around and say, yeah, but we're not doing dedicated servers. Which for me is like, sorry?
They're
You're
just
going to...
throwing it on Sony's other server.
No,
Well, aye.
Nothing else.
it's peer-to-peer connection. So it's
Well,
it's,
there you go. Then it's
Which
your
means the multiplayer will
PlayStation.
only be as good as the person with the
basically
lowest
did it.
connection.
aye.
Well, aye. And it'll be dreadful, frankly.
Yes.
aye.
Yes, it will.
It's based on the speeds between the people playing, so it's.
Yep. Well, I think we can conclude from part one that the Sony presentation at Paris Games Week was very underwhelming for a number of reasons. Primarily because we didn't really see anything new, and there's the French audience as a possibility as well. Now, Will, would you agree with any of that, or do you think there's more to
I
add
mean,
to
there
this
are
debate?
some things. There are some things that I like the look of. There are obviously other things that I didn't. I mean, No Man's Sky, I would like to have seen more of it. It's just more of the same, the stuff they've been showing for the last half a year.
Yeah, even the new trailer's not new.
Did you get a look at Avicii's game, Vector it's called?
Yes.
Yeah, that's just a giant rip-off of Audio Surf. I mean, let's be fair, it looks prettier, but it's the same game.
Well,
You're basically just going to be playing Avicii music rather than everything else that you've got on your hard drive.
Can I just mention as well, sorry to interrupt there, No Man's Sky, the trailer they did show a voiceover, which leads me to think that there's going to be like a narrative for that for the game itself.
It does seem as if there's going to be a narrative. There is obviously a driven story to it to begin with. I think you're supposed to get to the centre of the universe, so there's quite possibly going to be like actual quests and stuff in it now by the looks of it.
well, I can tell you one thing. I know that they'd originally tried to sign Morgan Freeman to do the voice of God,
Nice.
and because of various contractual obligations that Mr. Freeman is under, he was unable to do it at that time. So they got in Rutger Hauer.
Oh, Rutger Hauer's alright.
Yes. So I'm assuming that if you to go to the centre of the universe,
To meet
chances
Rutger Hauer.
If they should have got anybody, it should have been Samuel L. Jackson.
no.
Morgan
No.
Freeman would have been this one. Let's be fair, if they had done a female god, they would have been jumping right out of the box for most people, so that might have been a better play.
If they'd have done a female god, it had to have been Alanis Morissette.
Oh, there you go. Aye.
Yes.
the Kevin Smith fans of it.
Yes.
Not
to Mr. Smith.
Yeah, but your only problem is Alanis Morissette is mute in that role. So how do you have a mute
Very true,
actress
very true.
as a voiceover artist? That's
You
an
don't
interesting
have
question.
Alan Rickman.
As long as it's anybody but Nolan North, I'm happy
Well, aye.
because he is pretty much everybody else.
Yes.
Yeah, Matterfall, which I think is good. I'm not sure if it's going to be a first-person or third-person shooter. It's very Halo-like though, which I thought was quite good. It seems as if you're fighting a whole load of like cubes. So it's like a lot of pixels and stuff that they
Yes.
fighting in. It was a lot of just red blobs and then they become things and you fight them. I thought that was quite good. I liked that.
Yes. It's a novel idea. It's like playing an abstract painting to a point.
Yeah, but you get
Obviously, there's going to be a story arc involved and that sort of thing, but it's still to a point. You're effectively playing a painting.
So
it's very
what
fair.
are we going to call that? Halo Picasso then?
Yeah,
Well, something like that. Aye. Why not?
abstract Bungie. Tekken 7. Let's be honest, Tekken 7 is just another Tekken. It doesn't seem as if they've ever moved off that same straight storyline. It's some guy's done something and somebody else wants revenge and everybody else gets a story round about it that kind of links to it. So this one did seem as if it was a prequel rather than anything else though.
Yeah, that was the impression I got. I mean, I've not kind of followed it that closely, but it did seem to be like we're going to look back to a different time.
Yeah, it looks
I'm
it seems as if
I'm
it's just Hiachi's past again.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you know. You, there's what is it? Is it Killer Instinct? It's not Killer Instinct. It's there's a beat 'em up on the Xbox as well, and you're
I
either a
think it's
fan of.
Killer Instinct,
Is it
actually.
Killer Instinct? You
I
know,
think so.
and there's a new season of Killer Instinct, new characters and stuff coming
Oh,
out.
they're
That.
yeah.
And do you know, it's like you either like beat 'em ups or you don't.
I
I
used
think
to be a big fan of beat 'em ups when I was younger, but I've
yeah,
kind of moved away from them now to more story-driven games.
and I think it's a bit of a niche segment for games. I don't think you get. I think 2/3 of your audience are probably going to go, man, not for me, and that's perfectly fine. But Sony announced 2 of them. Do you know?
Yes,
Aye.
back to back as well.
Yeah, that confused me.
See, the thing
Aye.
I mean,
Here's a
I've-
beat 'em
I
up
took
game,
notes.
and here's
Aye.
another beat 'em up
I
game.
took notes while I was watching it. I was going through them as they played out the videos and stuff like that. And Tekken, the only thing I wrote next to it was same shit, different day. And then Street Fighter, because of the obvious Japanese translations and all that kind of stuff and all the pissing about, I just wrote what the fuck next to it. I
Do you
mean,
know-
I like the idea that they're bringing old characters back and giving them a touch up, but that does not look like Dawson.
I think one of the things you've got to be, I think, cognizant of for the Sony presentation is if everything is being delivered by the Japanese developers, that's great, and then there's a translation, it just really annihilates the pace of the presentation. You can't do fast paced, bam, 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 bam. That's why a 60-minute presentation becomes an hour and 3/4.
Yeah.
Aye.
You know, and that was
Well, I
maybe.
mean, they did the same thing. It was either Gamescom or E3 when the Japanese guy came on with this big frigging thing on his head. It was E3, and
Yes.
that just completely ruined it for them as well. They're like, right, we'll bring this guy on and it'll be funny and stuff, and no one understood what the hell it was supposed to reference.
You know,
Exactly.
so maybe there's cultural differences to worry about, but you would think that European people would be able to turn around and say, look, if you want to do this, here's what gamers are looking for. You look at what's being done by EA, you look at what's been done by Microsoft in terms of the beat of the presentation. Even Bethesda, I think, with what they did for Fallout this year at E3, you're kind of getting a feel for people are wanting new material, new stuff, new content. Otherwise, why are we sitting here watching something you've already shown me? And
Exactly.
for me, what's changed is the likes of Twitch and YouTube and all those kind of social media channels where, you know, you can put a clip out for a game and we can have 1 million people watching it within a couple of days. And it's dead easy to do. Whereas it used to be the E3 was like the big unveil and you would get stuff like that. For me now, you look at the production values that the big companies put into the presentations, it's like a TV show, much more like a TV show, and therefore there's good tempo to it. There's a real sense of when we do this bit, we will unveil this game or we will show this stuff and we will make this announcement. There just wasn't that sense of tempo or pace to what Sony were doing. I think they need to kind of take a deep breath, look at it and say, did that work? And what were we trying to achieve with it? Because I'm not sure it is. And you know, looking at it purely from a presentation perspective, it failed on a number of levels. This is not to say that there's not good stuff there, but the presentation of it was poor.
Would you agree with that, Danny? Would you say that the presentation, you know, overall was, I'll use a much more harsher word than David did, a joke?
Very boring and very samey, monotonous. I was like nearly falling asleep halfway through it until they had brought out
Some games that you were interested in.
Gran Turismo, for example.
Or
And
until
what
they-
were
Well,
yourself?
there was a couple of games that, I mean, for the most part, I mean, Matterfall I hadn't seen any of in the past, so I mean that was one of the ones that I'd like the look of. The other stuff, Avicii, passed right by because it's a rip-off. Bloodborne, the old hunters. I don't have the original Bloodborne, so it was, well, big deal. It's just DLC,
Yeah.
which is out on the 24th of November, if anybody's getting it. Drive Club's now got bikes. Whatever.
Brilliant, I know.
Gran Turismo's coming back out. Drive Club can get put back in the bin where it belongs. Gravity Rush 2. Now, I've never actually played the original Gravity Rush, but I don't think I'm going to play 2 either because it seems like a hack and slash where they've just kind of shoehorned a gravity mechanic in where you can run along the walls and all that kind of stuff. The only thing that they seem to have updated is the fact that you've got now 3 different combat styles.
Yeah, and 3 different characters.
Yeah, well, there's that as well. But I mean, the combat styles, in the original game, it was essentially you use the ability to change your gravity to like either running along the pavement, or you could make yourself a bit lighter so that you could fight. But now you can either make yourself really light, or you can make yourself really heavy so that you're damaged more. That is it. So
I tell you what really struck me looking at the opening video montage was how dependent the multi-platform games are with so-called exclusive content for Sony.
Mhm.
How much a big part of what they're doing, certainly this Christmas. You take Call of Duty and Battlefront out from that presentation, and it looks awfully
well,
thin.
they didn't actually show any Call of Duty or Battlefront, though, did they?
They did in
Yes, they
the video montage.
The first one, the montage right at the start. They
yeah.
did.
Yeah, and they also showed the Battlefront launch trailer.
You did.
Aye.
You know,
So-
which
so the-
didn't show us Yoda for some reason.
Aye.
Yeah, that's true. Dreams.
Now that's an interesting game.
That does seem interesting. It seems a lot like, obviously, the people who make Dreams made as Media Molecule made Little Big Planet as well. So it seems a lot like Little Big Planet mixed with Project Spark.
Yes, got to agree with that. And I'm not going to say, this is the thing for budding game developers, right? Because it certainly isn't. The thing for budding game developers is to do a course in game development and then choose a platform to develop on. But this is the kind of thing where you could throw together a level or 2 in a couple of hours and then send it to your pals and go, there, try that. Which is
the same kind of thing that they tried with Little Big Planet as well. You've got this massive community of other gamers playing the same game, and they can upload their worlds, and you can go and play them. And some of them are spectacular. There's one in Little Big Planet. I think it was Little Big Planet 2. Someone had made something like 30% of the Final Fantasy VII game, side scrolling.
Oh, well, there you go.
So I mean, there are definite people out there with absolute skills who should be getting jobs in the games industry, but still just mess about and stuff like this. I mean, you give them a 3D world like Dreams has got, and the potential's endless for the game. So I mean, it's quite good that way.
Yep. Now, does anybody have anything more to add to that before we move
One
on?
slight thing that I was going to say about Dreams, the way they were doing the presentation and stuff, are you going to need the PlayStation camera to play this game? Because it seems as if it picked up the light at the front of the controller for most of the controls.
That's a point. That is a good point. Maybe you need the cameras specifically to key in the controls when you're creating a level.
Mm-hmm. It does seem as if when he was moving the controller about and stuff, the sprite thing, I think it was called a sprite or an imp or something like that on the screen, was reacting to his hand movements, so might be picking up the light for that.
This is very true. So I think we can all agree, that while it was an underwhelming presentation, there were a couple of things there that caught our eye, but not to the point where, we're going to be drooling over them. I think, there was a lot wrong with the Sony presentation. David mentioned, the fact that getting the translation and that sort of thing took it from an hour to an hour and 45 minutes. To me, that's just a strange thing for Sony to do. I think it was a very poor presentation, and it was at the wrong time, a very poor time as well for them to choose. Now, in part 2, we're going to be discussing VR, which we know took up a hell of a lot of the Sony presentation, and none of us have really mentioned that as yet. So join us again in part 2, where we're talking about Sony's VR and that sort of thing. And if you have any questions about the Super Game Bros, drop us a line at sgb@ramblemedia.co, and you'll also be able to download Ramble Media from iTunes and get us on the Stitcher app as well. And now we're going on to part 2. Hi, and welcome back to part 2 of the Super Game Bros podcast, which is the official podcast of RambleMedia.tv. I'm your host, Ricky McMillan. I'm joined by Danny Black, Will Hamilton, and David Morris, and tonight we've been discussing Paris Games Week and Sony's presentation, and we're now going to be talking about VR. Project Morpheus, Oculus Rift, that sort of thing. So, Danny, I know you've got loads to say about VR, so I'm going to start with you.
Can I just start off by saying it really should not be called VR. Morpheus is such a better name for it, but um,
Morpheus, I think, is going to cause some issues with the movie The Matrix, though. I think that's.
not necessarily.
Let's be honest, Morpheus. It wasn't the first time it was used.
The
in
Wachowski
Matrix
sort
movie,
of-
which is obviously it's been used in the past as well before Matrix, but it is to most people.
Yeah, it is to most people associated with
Aye.
the Matrix
The
movies.
Matrix,
But
yeah.
Morpheus was actually a Greek god,
Exactly.
but that's neither here nor there. I mean, I do understand what Will's saying. There may be, in some way, a copyright issue involved.
It may
Yeah.
just be that it's easier. I mean, VR basically tells you everything you need to know about it. It's PlayStation, it's VR, that is you. I mean, you obviously find out exactly what you need to know from from 4 letters.
I'm really excited about it, but the only thing that might put me off is the price point. There's rumors of it going to be like a full priced console, like 300 quid.
Price.
Um,
That is probably what it's going to be. I mean, if they do it lower than that, then they're treading into the territory that Microsoft ended up in last generation with Kinect, where they had this fully functioning toy you'd plug into the Xbox and it would do everything for itself. But because it was going to cost so much, they took the processor out of it and let the Xbox deal with itself, and they basically cut it off at the knees. So if they don't have all the technology they need inside the VR headset, then they're going to cut themselves off at the knees as well, trying to make it cheaper.
The PlayStation 3 was actually losing money for them in the beginning because they wanted to be competitive. So I can see them going down at cheaper.
Compatibility for PlayStation 2 games.
Yeah, that's what made it expensive.
Well, that's not necessarily true. It was only the 60 gigabyte PlayStation 3, which was the first run of PlayStation 3s.
Aye,
that
and
were
when
backwards compatible with the PlayStation 2.
It made the console cheaper, which made them able
And
to
those consoles were £800 each to make, even after they took out the backwards compatibility stuff for PlayStation 2. The consoles were still close on £500 or $500, I should say, to make, which meant the price of them. There was no correlation between price and cost. There was no profit margin involved. They were losing $200 per unit that they sold, at least in America anyway. Now, David, as the nature of your work, your actual personal business that you do during the day, you would probably have a better insight than the three of us put together regarding, the business side of it. Do you think Morpheus is going to be outpriced? Do you think that they're going to have to price it a lot more than what maybe they should for the majority of the people to actually have access to it?
So there's some interesting stuff to mull over here, Ricky, and I'll ask for a couple of minutes indulgence while I can explore this. If we're talking about a PlayStation install base of about, say, 25 million, right? It's an awful lot of consoles. If you focus development on producing VR games and games that will only run in a VR headset, then that's got to be at least 40-something% of your installed base. You translate that into what it means for, that's 10 million headsets they would want to sell for it to make it worthwhile to create a VR game, and I don't see them selling 10 million Morpheus headsets. For me, console hardware is never really a profit-making mechanism for either Sony or Microsoft. They've always just about broken even or made a small profit or occasionally a small loss, and I think it depends on what production run it is and how kind of far into the generation that they do that. So I think wondering about whether or not the consoles are making money, I think is a bit of a red herring. If Morpheus costs about $400 to make, and you're not going to make like 5 million of those if you're not confident you can sell 5 million. I suspect the initial production run is going to be small, which means that the headsets are going to be expensive, which means it will be the enthusiasts and the early adopters who will buy that, and that's a small percentage of your install base. So unless they're going to massively subsidize them, and I don't believe that Sony at this point in time has the financial wherewithal to do something like that as a long-term bet on being able to make money out of virtual reality, then they're going to be expensive. They're going to cost as much as a console, and I think a fraction of the install base will have it. So unless the VR experience is utterly compelling, and unless they have resolved some of the issues such as the motion sickness problem, which is common to all VR platforms, and unless they get you a headset that you can wear for a couple of hours without feeling like you've spent, that time at the bottom of the sea pretending you're Jacques Cousteau and wearing a scuba mask. I mean, unless they do those things, I think there's some serious challenges for virtual reality to succeed. Now, we know that, for example, Microsoft has bought into, is going to support Valve's VR headset, and that's great. But I think it's going to be a tiny slice of what's out there. If a company like Microsoft, with its financial resources and the software development behind it, can't make Kinect a compelling proposition, which I think they have still failed to do even on this generation.
Yeah.
As much as I like Kinect as part of the dashboard and the UI experience, I think it's great for that. But if they can't make Kinect compelling without having problems about, hey, if you use Kinect, you'll throw up after half an hour, then I'm at a loss to see where this big push for VR is going to take Sony.
Yeah, I happen to agree to a point there with Kinect. I don't believe that motion gaming, as Kinect and even the PlayStation camera, the new one anyway, certainly. The old one was just terrible, especially with PlayStation Move. I mean, who needs something in their life that you've got to recalibrate every time you want to use it? I mean, just no. Just no. Right? Do any of you guys think, what about yourself, Danny, or even you, Will, do you think that the lack of, the PlayStation camera, for want of a better word, do you think that is going to affect sales of the Morpheus? Because we know or the VR headset, because we know from the original E3 presentation, they told us specifically that for it to work properly, you needed the PlayStation camera. Now, while the camera has reduced in price a lot recently, I mean, I know places where you can now get it for £30 sterling. I think the lack of sales of that one thing are going to affect the sales of the VR headset.
I'm going to start off. Maybe they'll bundle the two together.
Which again would make it more expensive.
Not necessarily. They could bundle it for say 250, 300.
Well, say they initially release Morpheus or the VR headset by itself. I'm saying they're not going to release that unit by itself for anything less than £300 sterling, right? Which in some countries is going to be $600. I think in Brazil it's going to be something like 1,200 reals, which is a lot of money in Brazil.
Ricky, I think you're going to see it closer to 400 than 300 if I'm truthful. Yeah. Just because the early production runs of things like headsets, of Kinects and so on, are inherently more expensive because you've got all the production setup costs to try and recoup in that run. That's why later on in the life cycle of consoles become cheaper because you've invested all the money you need to make them in the first place. You've kind of paid for the setting up the production runs. Components over time get cheaper and so on. So a VR headset is going to come in something I think closer to £400.
Yeah,
that's steep.
I mean, I don't have I've got doubts as to certain parts of VR. I mean, obviously the headset looks, from what it looks like, if that's the headset that they're going to give us, then people with glasses are going to have issues. because it seems as if it's really close to the eyes, and if it's that close, then it will be touching. For the same reason that I had an issue with the Microsoft headset thing, because it seems as if you're going to need to take your glasses off to use that, which is something I'm not capable of doing.
See, I think with HoloLens you can wear ordinary prescription glasses and still wear the HoloLens headset.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there is a way for them to do that, and hopefully PlayStation will take into account the distance that you need to be from, like with a pair of glasses on. The screens need to be a certain distance from you so that you can use it. I don't think there's. I mean, I've had a look through recently of a list of games that have been announced for VR. I don't think they're all going to be launch titles for VR.
No.
There are a good few. I mean, you're looking at, obviously, this is one of the things I was going to pick up on the last section before we moved on. But Tekken 7 on VR, how the hell is that going to work?
I
was
have
just
no
thinking
idea,
that.
but if Sony expect me to stand in my living room with a VR headset on,
Oh, they tried that before. They tried that on Xbox.
try it,
Kinect
standing there in front of a camera,
Fighter Within.
doing
I got that
kicks
box
and
for me last
punches.
Christmas. I think it was last Christmas or maybe for my birthday or something. I think my daughter bought me it, but I haven't even opened it because I am not planning on jumping about the man cave like that. I will not put myself out.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I am not going to be standing there doing punches and kicks. I mean, how ridiculous are you going to look?
No.
Big, huge, giant, monstrous headset on, right? Camera, joypad, and you're standing there pretending you're punching or kicking
It's
an
not
imaginary
a
foe.
game either. Dead or Alive Extreme 3 is also going to be on it.
Outlast
You know
or
what games like, Ricky, this will be one that you're excited about, Allison Road.
Yes.
The spiritual successor to the PT demo that Konami ripped back.
Yes.
That's going to be on VR. You'll probably be familiar with Ark Survival Evolved, which
Yes.
is it's a popular game on Steam.
I mean, don't get me wrong. That dinosaur game that they showed.
Robinson.
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 From Crytek.
That looks really.
Oh.
I mean, Crytek know their stuff when it comes to massive graphics and stuff. They've always done stuff on the far end.
And here's the thing. I think it's perfectly possible to develop games that would be interesting wearing VR, but I don't think it overcomes the fact that there will be a tiny installed user base. Tiny user base.
There, David, I think it's going to end up being a niche thing. Now,
It very well may be, but I mean there are definitely games here that are going to appeal to everybody. I mean, you've got Drive Club there as well. You've got Project Cars. You've got the fighting games. You've got Robinson. You've got one called Jurassic Encounter as well, which I assume will be a lot like that.
and there's rigs.
You've
Sure.
got Harmonix Music.
And I think they'll be fine. Presumably, these are games that you can play on your standard, watching it on a 2D screen.
Well, some of them probably will be, aye. But I mean,
Yeah.
at the same time, I mean that the one that they had at the PlayStation thing last week as well, Battlezone, which is obviously a reboot of the original Battlezone game, which to me always reminds me of the tanks from Tron.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
I was saying to myself while I was watching that video, I'm thinking,
that was an arcade machine, and it predated
Yeah.
Tron by a good number of years.
but that's why they added it to Tron as well,
Yeah.
because of that kind of stuff. And
Aye,
I was
totally.
thinking to myself while watching the video, if they don't put the tanks from Tron in it, then they are losing out on something that could have been awesome.
So, not to try and date this, but I was a wee boy when we played Battlezone in the arcades.
I remember playing Battlezone myself. That arcade.
Yeah, I'm not going to
lasted a long
mention when
time.
I played Battlezone in the arcade.
Aye.
No, I don't think there's any point. I don't think, our listeners need to know that. Now,
But there are a fair few games. I mean, at least 50 that I could probably name for you.
yeah, well, Sony announced that there was going to
Riggs
be.
as well.
Yeah, Riggs is going to be
One of the ones that
fantastic.
they put on, that's going to be a VR game as well.
Yeah,
They haven't, and I still think that they will. They haven't announced No Man's Sky for it, but I still really think that they will, because there are games in here that are almost exactly like that. I mean, there's the
and as I've already said, well, I think you're actually barking up a gum tree with that. Hello Games have been developing that game for so long now.
Yeah, but they've been putting it
almost
back.
had a release date, but then they moved it back again. So there is a good possibility that the company goes, well, you know what? Let's try and put it on VR as well. And
Do you know
that's
what?
'cause it
But-
could have easily.
but-
Yeah, let's
But are they not a
try and have
tiny studio?
hospitals full of people.
That
with
could be
most-
why they've got that much time, though.
Uh,
you know?
I don't know. I just think that I think you can create titles for VR. If you want to use the Kinect analogy, there were some games for Kinect which were really, really good.
Kinect
Now,
Sports.
Yeah, Kinect Sports, I think was fun. Kinect Adventures was fun.
Yeah.
So they got it right with
Kinect
a couple
Star
of
Wars
things.
was garbage.
Never played that.
I did.
I liked, for example, that Mass Effect 3 had voice commands. So you could say to like the people in your squad when you were in combat, you could shout at them and get them to go and like flank left, flank right, fall back, defend, stuff like that. And it was that little bit more immersive. With Mass Effect 3, you could also make your text choices. You know how when you have the screen with like 2, 3, 4 different options for you to say as Shepard, you could speak it. And the Kinect would pick it up and do that. And it's a little bit more immersive. That's using the technology in an innovative and immersive way.
It's something that didn't get used enough.
Yeah,
I would agree with you, Will, because if you can issue voice commands in a game in a meaningful way that helps you kind of feel more immersed in the experience, then I think that helps.
Yeah, the only other game that I know of that did something similar was Skyrim, where you could issue the shout commands, but then.
Yeah, you could literally do your Fuzzdora.
You
belt it out in the living room,
that meant having to learn all of them.
I know.
So you could be Fuzzdora, which was all of them, but you had like 9, 10 shouts that you had to remember all of the words for each of them.
Yes,
if you're a fan, you're a fan. I guess. I just think what you've got is that the only people who ever got this right, as in terms of finding a new way to get people involved with gaming, are Nintendo.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo got it right with the Wii. The Wii was the only console that my wife was prepared to pick up a controller and play a game with. It worked right, and it was fine. Now, they absolutely got that right. Microsoft didn't get it right with Kinect, although I don't think they've given up on that by any manner of means, but there's still a sense of, do you know what, it's a peripheral that they're not really quite sure how to use. And therefore, I think there's an enormous hurdle for Sony to overcome with Morpheus and VR. This is not to say that this can't be successful. I'm going to say right here and now that VR will never be mainstream. Well,
so you think it's going to be a niche type thing then?
Absolutely. I think if you're going to have to buy a console twice for the money you're going to have to shell out for a Morpheus headset, it's not going to be mainstream.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. The price of it will put a lot of people off. Plus, you're having to get the camera. That'll put even more people off. And now, we know that Sony announced there's going to be 200 titles in development right now for their VR headset. Do you think that matters to people in any way, shape or form, Danny? Do you think that that's something that people will care about?
Possibly.
But what if a lot of those titles are... Now, personally, I don't hate indies. Right? I think indies are the backbone.
Yeah, Xbox Rambo loves indies.
Yes. I think the indie games or indie companies are the backbone of game development simply because they fill in the gaps in between the massive amount of games that come out around about February to April and October to December. You know, when you've got those two things out the way, what you're left with is all indie titles.
Yeah. Not just that, when it comes to indies though as well. Indies can be about some of the, because they aren't constrained by certain rules that big publishers and stuff fire onto them, like you've got to do this, you've got to have this put in, we've got to compete with Call of Duty or Battlefield or Gran Turismo, etc. Yeah. They can make games which they're so far flung, they're so out there that they become instant hits.
Yeah, so
there are so many games you wouldn't expect to be an enjoyable game, and they are.
Would you say that a lot of the indie titles, or that are going to come out for VR, are going to be, their own wee niches in and of themselves, or they're just going to encapsulate the entire niche?
They're going to be different. Each indie game is going to be different. Some of the best games I've played have been indies. Tower of Guns is quite an old favorite of mine. Goat Simulator is another. Surgeon Simulator and Octodad.
I know Surgeon Simulator is going to be on VR as well for PlayStation, so it's.
Oh, I can't wait.
You're pretty sticking your face right into a cadaver.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Just no. Just no.
And for me, this is the thing that there will be niche games that I think will really fit into that, and there will be an enthusiast community who will be into that and will try and promote it and say, this is great, we're enjoying it, it's fabulous. I think all of that's perfectly valid, and I don't in any way take away from what people are going to get from Morpheus or VR. I just think that the price of entry is going to be too steep for the vast majority of people. If you look at where we are in terms of console sales now, they're down to the sort of levels we were at the midpoint, I think, of the last generation. And you know, you can pick up a console for 270 quid, an Xbox, and that's including the game. And I know there are deals and stuff on for Christmas just now. So, you know, it's
Oh, did you have to say that word, David?
Yes, I did.
Less than 8 weeks.
Yeah, and so for me, what that's is the consoles becoming accessible to a lot of the people who are on what I guess you would now call last generation hardware, the Xbox 360, which there is still a huge install base I think out there, and the PlayStation 3. And we're going to see a lot of people move on to current gen, and that provides its own challenges but its own opportunities for these companies. VR's never going to be that. It is never going to be that. And unless you can turn it around so that a VR headset you can pick up for 100 quid, and it's a big ask from kind of where we're starting just now. Unless you can do it for about 100 quid, it's just never going to be mainstream.
Yeah, I have to agree completely with everything you're saying, David. I said I was dead excited when they done oh look, and we've done this VR headset, and I'm thinking, what a great idea. And then see, the more I thought about it, the more I realised, not really. It's going to be one of those things that, it's going to be aimed at gamers, but 90% of gamers are used to playing games with either a joypad or a keyboard in front of them. They're not used to playing games with something stuck over their head that turns them into, effectively an android for an hour or two. And I also don't think that, using a VR headset, I mean, the majority of gamers, they don't have good gaming habits, as it were. We're told, 45 minutes and take a 15-minute break.
That's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Exactly. Could any picture, the amount of people that are going to need to go to the opticians after a couple of months with these VR headsets?
Unless they switch themselves off after 45 minutes, and won't that be popular?
Yeah, oh, exactly. You're in the middle of killing something, and boom, your headset crashes.
Well, I can assume that they've already thought all this kind of stuff. I mean, a VR headset, which is pretty much right in front of your eyes, they've got to have something where they aren't just putting a TV screen inches from your face, which would, yes, it would destroy your eyes. But at the same time, most people sit, or when they're lying in bed, they have their telephone screen a lot closer to them than a TV screen would be.
Yeah, but that's
I'm assuming it'll have something to do with the actual resolution and the size of the screens that are inside the headset, where it won't be particularly damaging to the eyes.
Can I ask if you guys worn like an Oculus Rift or something like that before?
I have done.
Yeah. What was your experience? Well, what did you think?
I didn't seem. I mean, other than the fact again with the glasses thing, I didn't have too much of an issue. I don't think the feelings of vertigo and the eye strain and stuff like that, it didn't. I mean, I played a game for a good 10-15 minutes and it didn't seem to have an issue. I mean, the only thing that I did have an issue with is when I took the headset off, it seemed as if the world around me was a lot more high fidelity than it was before I put the headset on.
What you're saying, well, is that the headset gave you superpowers for a moment.
It basically
improved senses.
It improved my senses round about me, but I mean that was that was the level of immersion that you got
Yeah,
from the headset on. You completely forget that the world round about you isn't what you're seeing.
So I've used Morpheus in a very limited fashion, and I think I have about 15 minutes gaming time. And do you know what? By that stage, I'd had enough. Now, it felt really warm. So it was starting to get a bit of perspiration kind of building up inside. The lenses and everything needed cleaned every so often. I don't know about you guys, but if it's a long gaming session, the room gets warm because the console's on.
No, that's true.
And I'm not sure just how comfortable it is. And I think unless they can give you a headset that you can wear for an hour or a couple of hours and be comfortable with it, then I don't see it working unless it can be cheap. And when I say cheap, that's a relative term. Unless you can get it for £100, I don't see that it's going to take off. I think it's a bold move, and I think it's innovative, and I kind of like the idea that the boundaries are being pressed and stretched with a new technology like virtual reality. For me, this is a 3, 5, possibly 7-year project. So, it's not like we're going to be seeing 10 million people playing VR games in 18 months' time, because that just is not going to happen.
Yeah, I do have to agree. Even if they were to, even though there says that Morpheus is going to be coming out next year, or PlayStation VR is going to be coming out next year, I think it'll be roughly the same time as Oculus Rift. I think it's going to be, you're either going to want it or you won't, and that decision you'll make based on price, based on games getting released, based on, is it going to affect my health, that sort of thing. Now, we've talked about practically everything to do with this VR headset. We've talked about price, we've talked about the games, that sort of thing. Now, Danny, please forgive me for bringing this up, but as a gamer who is handicapped, do you think there's any advantages, for like handicapped gamers with the VR helmet, with the VR headsets?
Yeah, there's different aspects of maybe gamers that aren't really so good at using their fingers or hands will be able to use, like they'll be able to strap on the PS Move to their hands, and it'll be able to allow them to game better or that, because if you look at the controller for the PS4, yeah, it's better than the PS3, but for someone that doesn't have great hand dexterity, like a few of my friends, they find it really hard to grip the thumbsticks.
Yeah.
So I think something like the old PS Move is perfect.
See, there's a
PS Camera.
There's a gaming charity in the UK. They're called
Special Effects.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Their basic remit is to take controllers which generally aren't. They're not
accessible.
They're not accessible to people with certain handicaps and disabilities, and
Yeah.
they rewire them, they rebuild them, they make them bigger, they make them smaller, they make them non-existent for certain games and stuff, just so that the people can get a better quality of life through gaming as well. I think Oculus could be a decent, or not so much Oculus. I think the VR Oculus, any of the VR headsets, they could be a real game changer for people who don't have the manual dexterity to even hold the controller, or even for some people to even move their arms and legs.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of disappointed that Kinect and that didn't really take off. It's got great potential.
VR,
Kinect
had a massive potential. It just wasn't utilised in the way that
Kinect, they never found the killer app for it.
Exactly.
They never found the killer app for it. And the only company who's done it, as I said already, is Nintendo with the Wii, because they had the killer app, and that was Wii Sports. Wii Sports was the killer app for the Wii, and everybody then went, yeah, that's fine, we can do that.
That's the thing about the Wii as well. The Wii was instrumental in creating the Kinect and the PlayStation Move, because the Wii became this thing where everybody was dancing about the living room. They were holding this controller, and the console just accepted that that's what they were doing, and that's how you played their games. So obviously PlayStation came out with something similar, which was the Move, and then Xbox tried to go one better and completely remove the controller and make you the controller. So I mean, they were just kind of knee-jerk reactions to Nintendo's foresight into gaming.
So I just think what VR needs is a killer app, and I don't just mean there has to be a game that you can only experience in a completely immersive and involving way on VR for VR to take off. Because see, to be honest, if it's the difference between seeing it in 3D on a headset, which I can only wear for 45 minutes, or sitting watching it on a big screen TV, do you know what's the difference?
Right,
That's not the killer app.
Aye, I'm going to mention something, and Ricky knows where I'm going to go with this already because we've had discussions about this before. It generally pertains to how certain technologies are picked up. Whereas, like, obviously, what do you call it? The Betamax and VHS were obviously competitors back in the day.
Yes.
And most people probably don't know this, but the reason that Betamax wasn't picked up was because the porn industry picked up VHS because it was cheaper. It was inexpensive to make stuff. HD discs and Blu-ray were the same issue. The porn industry jumped on Blu-ray, so that became the more popular thing. And I think if the porn industry managed to get a hold of the VR system and find this thing, that may end up being their killer app. You may end up with a massive install base of porn.
VR strap-ons, well.
There's all sorts of peripherals you can think of for that kind of shit. So, there is a very good possibility that's...
Yeah, I could just see it at E3 next year, Shui Yoshida walking out with a strap-on. You know, just no.
Oh, it'll be funny though, won't it?
It'll be funny. You know, but it's just not going to happen.
No, quite.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what I'm saying is until they've figured out what the immersive gaming experience is that you can only experience.
PlayStation Home? No?
No.
PlayStation Home was good for what it was.
Yeah.
But it didn't get the help that it needed to do. It was definitely capable of a lot more. They tried to build a social media network inside PlayStation, but not a lot of people wanted to use it for the same reason as not a lot of people use certain other aspects of consoles. They don't want it for that. They want it for games.
Hmm.
They tried to build Second Life inside the PlayStation, and it just wasn't what gamers wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I don't know.
I obviously, Danny, you're of the mind that the VR headset is going to be, wondrous to a point, up to a certain point.
I really hope that it is as well. I mean, I've got big hopes for VR because it essentially negates the need for me to have a bigger TV in the man cave in a couple of years' time. So
that's what I was thinking. Well, you can watch movies and that.
Do what I do.
I can lie in bed and watch a film, and my missus can watch a film on the TV, and we can be watching completely different things.
Yeah, that's what I think. If they could launch that, will you be able to play ordinary games on it with a normal controller just through the PS headset?
Yeah, basically, I mean that's Xbox have done that for certain people in the preview program at the moment, where you can stream stuff from your Xbox One to a Windows 10 console.
Yeah.
Which I've tested, and it works really well because I've obviously got the Xbox One in the man cave in the loft, and I've got Windows 10 on my laptop. So what I did was take the laptop down to the living room, hook it up to the TV in the living room, which is a 50-inch, and played Gears of War through the laptop in the living room, and it worked. It was seamless. It worked great.
I tested it in one of the early builds of Windows 10 streaming. So it was from a preview program build on the Xbox to a preview program build on Windows 10. And by the way, I've got an interesting anecdote about the Windows 10 preview program. And I played Titanfall on it, and a live multiplayer game, and I wasn't getting annihilated. I was, I'm not a brilliant gamer at the best of times.
You were doing better because of the streaming?
No, well, the streaming didn't seem to materially get in the way of the game. I was still able to kind of shoot and take people. I think there might have been occasional instances like, but that was like a preview build with a preview build, and fundamentally, it's restricted by how fast your home network is.
Yeah,
that's
which
for
most people their home network is always, or most of the time, going to be twice as fast as their internet speed.
Sure.
Yes.
I mean, I'm on 100 meg and my router I think is 300 meg per second. So it's never going to be an issue for most people as long as they're on a decent the router is a decent make or model.
Sure.
They should never have an issue for the in-game.
Yeah.
It's whether or not your internet's capable of that streaming back and forward between the console as well as the streaming online.
Yeah. Do you want my Windows 10 anecdote just well?
Right,
well
let's
this,
hear
yeah.
it.
So
as long as it's quick, David, because we're going to have to wrap up shortly.
it's very very quick. So the Windows 10 Windows Insider program. Do you know what the inspiration for that was?
What's that?
Xbox preview program. The Windows team looked at what Xbox were doing with the preview program, with putting out preview builds out to a select audience to beta test it, and they said that's a brilliant idea, and that's how Windows Insider began, which has like got millions and millions of people. So you had Xbox leading Microsoft by this kind of concept of kind of open beta participation, and so Windows Insider is the love child of the Xbox preview program.
That's actually quite interesting, that. So going into conclusions here, guys. I'd done a poll earlier on, as you know, on Twitter regarding the Paris Games Week. So we're going to take a vote amongst the four of us regarding the VR. Who thinks it's going to be worth it, and whether it's long term, short term, it's going to be something that's going to be great?
I think it will.
Yeah.
Will thinks it is. Danny thinks it is, and I think we're both in agreement, David, that it's going to be a niche type deal.
I think it's going to be a very niche product. I think it's just not to say that I wouldn't enjoy it or I wouldn't necessarily pick up one. You know, if something appropriate was out there, I just don't see it being mainstream.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that. I can't see it going major. You know, the first couple of weeks it's released. You know, when the AAA titles, your Until Dawn, Born to Bleed, or whatever it's called, when things like that, when they get released, it's going to be major. And then after about 6 months, just like with the Kinect, it's just going to die out, and that's it. And it's the same with the PlayStation camera as well. Both of the Kinect and the PlayStation camera, they died out. The PlayStation camera on the PlayStation 3 anyway died out much quicker than Move controllers.
Yeah, it wasn't supported as much as it should be. PlayStation have got a habit of doing that though. They will drop support on something as soon as they realise, wait, this isn't working.
Yeah. So in conclusion, we can basically say that VR, while it's probably going to be a short-term success, long-term, I would say that it's going to end up more a niche product after a couple of, maybe a year.
I think it may be the other way about. I think you might find that when it first releases, it will just be the people who love their technology and the early adopters who pick it up first, and then a lot of people wait until it drops.
Right. And all I'm going to say to
there's a whole load of games there to play.
Just think Google Glass. Well, everybody was raving about what Google Glass was going to be, and it's like it's gone. They're just not going to do it now. And I think that for me is that's the cautionary note that we need to think of here. Yeah. Is this going to be another Google Glass? Don't know. I'd love to see it, but I think it's like 10 plus years before this becomes mainstream and cheap enough for everybody to want to do it.
Yeah. Can I just mention something? Sorry.
On that as well. £1,000 was a lot of money to ask.
Yeah. Sure. The reason Google Glass didn't take off was because of legality issues. You could take pictures of people and that without them knowing.
Well, that's it. There was a privacy issue because a lot of people objected to people, they were calling them explorers, wearing the glasses in public because it had a built-in camera and it was basically breaching all sorts of privacy issues.
Exactly. That's why it didn't take off.
There was also the battery issue as well. So obviously, if the VR headsets are constantly plugged in, then you're never going to have that problem.
So, in overall conclusion, PlayStation's presentation at Paris Games Week was kind of underwhelming to a point. And I think it's safe to say that we can all agree to disagree on what direction we think VR is going to go in. Now, for you folks listening, and we'd like to thank you all for listening in. This is episode 12 of Super Game Bros. This is called Virtually Paris. It will be available to download on iTunes and through the Stitcher app on Android. You can contact us regarding anything that you've heard tonight on the podcast at sgb@ramblemedia.co. Super Game Bros is the official podcast of ramblemedia.tv and is sponsored by G2A.com and NoScopeGamingGlasses.com. I've been your host, Ricky McMillan. The guys have been the discussion panel, Danny Black, David Morris, Will Hamilton. And from us, it's game over.